We've had to know every, from greenhouse environments to mixing milk with cattle, young calves to field spraying. We can tell you more about the water stuff. And it's been a collective effort. Customers and companies are always ready to feed into it and educate, educate, educate. So valuable. I would hate to begin to put a figure on how much money we have saved our customers by virtue of our water education. I think of one 3,000 acre vegetable farm that we haven't saved them $500,000 over the last 3 or 4 years just from our education end. I would be shocked.
Yeah, my name is Jim Halbeisen, and this is my opinion.
This week's podcast, I have with me Matt Gooding. We've been traveling all over the country, and the other day I got to thinking, hey, we got to talk to somebody local. And so Matt's approximately 30 miles from the home office, and he's about 25 miles from where I live. And we have a very long track record. Our dads basically started with Victor Tejan in the beginning, and Matt and I have kind of carried on and built a relationship ourselves and talk about a lot of different things. So I'd like to introduce Matt Gooding, and he lives at Tiffin, Ohio. You're in the northern part of the state, towards the center a little bit, but I'll let Matt talk about where he's at and a little bit about what he's doing as a farmer. And Matt reps for us also, so he has customers, and they're all over the board and the type of crops that they're raising. So Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you, and as you get going, there's certain questions I'm going to have, so get going, and let's see where we go from here.
Well, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm located in Tiffin, Ohio. We are south of Lake Erie. We are on the Sandusky River, or at least a little creek of ours runs into it. And Sandusky Bay is famous for all sorts of, and Lake Erie is all sorts of issues with water quality and such. And so my dad bought a beat-up farm back in the late 60s for $30,000, 150 acres, and had to borrow every dollar to get it, and we built it up, and we farmed another, 700 acres total for a while, all in the growers program. He had met the original owner, Doc Tejan, had stopped out on his farm with Jim's dad, and I grew up in an environment of nothing but research. The people at growers, the Wilbur Franklin back then, who was the former director of research, and Doc Tejan's and Jim's dad would all rotationally show up here. I don't remember much of Doc, but everybody else I do. And I would, as a kid, I'd raise soybeans in a plot and put in a mom's cake pan and tick her off, and show them that I put growers on soybeans here and this, that, and the other thing. And always have been like that. We farmed together, the classic farm boy, come home and forget about the homework. We had to work ground, and basically corn and soybeans and wheat, and we had a few cattle around and did a hay field every now and then for the cattle back then. And when we graduated, we bought a hydroponic greenhouse, one of the first ones out there, and promptly filled it with cucumbers and lettuce and tomatoes, and fell flat in my face doing their traditional methods of fertilization. And so we reset, and we started using growers in there. And of course, we're farming, and I'm working at the local YMCA, taking care of the pool there, learning water chemistry, and coming home and doing water chemistry in a hydroponic greenhouse. Basically, you're creating a availability of nutrients in a soil area, and it's like, oh wow. So it was just total chaos. But we figured out how to do the greenhouse eventually. We figured out growers was what to use, and we never used any sort of insecticide or fungicide, and basically we just used growers and water in this greenhouse, converted it from hydroponic to soil, saved a lot of hassle and money. And we proceeded to do that for a number of years until NAFTA was passed, and tomatoes came across from Canada so cheap that the restaurants that I was selling to couldn't resist saving all that money. And so we decided to kind of shut that thing down, turn it into a equipment barn, and proceeded on to raise corn and soybeans. And Dad passed away. I shrunk the farm down to the home farm and bought a big square baler back in the 2008, and Learn a whole lot because we ended up doing far more custom baling than I ever thought. And you learn a lot about other people's nutrition and program when you bale their hay. Um, so that added to the learning environment. In the meantime, I had customers, Amish, Mennonites, big vegetable operations, grain operations that, we adopted a program of just teaching, and learning what I learned and sharing that and starting a newsletter back in, I think, 98 was the first time I run a newsletter. And customer base grew, and we all kind of had this attitude that we're all going to learn together. I would present different things, and I only sold growers and farmed, and just got great relationships. It expressed itself in the second generation. I got tons of the father's sons farming and their customers, and it just kind of kept blowing out. And we're always doing experimental work here. Always something. And back a number of years ago, the people at Growers kind of approached me to also kind of do some research on a little more formal basis. They'd help out with a lot of the logistics. So I started a small lab and create a lot of the educational material for growers and have that next little aha moment, or keep Jim stirred up and keep him young and aggravated.
That's a good point, Matt. The approach of the growers program, which dates back, to Victor Tejan's, it was we're gonna educate our customers. This corporate sales idea that just didn't appeal to Doc Tejan's and Joe Henry. So they basically went on an educational approach, and then that was accepted, by Joe's daughter Jenny, and we've continued that way. And like Matt said, the company had enlisted Matt to do some things that he was already doing for his own clientele base, and the idea is the farmer is the key component, and we're gonna educate him to whatever degree he wants to be educated, and then take that back to the farm and try to create success. And Matt's done an excellent job with that. And we've delved off into a lot of different areas. The one key area has been water, man.
Yeah.
And we're going to do a podcast strictly on water, but just kind of summarize that quickly, Matt, to let people know that importance, man.
Well, the hydroponic thing is what really broke the whole water stuff open. I was raising baby calves on buckets and losing way too many of them. Teenager, you had $80, buy a calf, get scours, you bucket feed it, call the vet, calf dies, you still got to pay the vet bill, the death tax. And as I was working with the water issues that we have here with the hydroponic facility, I realized what the cause behind the cause was. And, it was the water. And we changed water sources, and I've never lost a calf, and I haven't. I don't call a vet. I haven't had a vet up the lane 40 years. It's so much of this stuff comes back to the water and everything that you do. I mean, I don't care what you do, what you're putting in water. We develop different methods of identifying that and how we can react a certain amount of growers with your water. We can learn more than a water test. We can tell you more about it, how to mitigate it, and how to help. And you think, okay, I developed that simple test. I think it's 25, 30 years ago. And, that is just mushroom. I mean, nowadays we're and it never stops. I mean, just this morning, we did a research thing in the lab, and we discovered, a whole nother aspect of how to take water that's bad and make good, and so we got to investigate that, and it just goes on and on and on.
No, that's one thing that popped in my mind, Matt, is, as long as we've been at it with the water with Matthew, you'd think you pretty well got it under control. And then all of a sudden this green ammonia shows up, and then there was a specific green ammonia that we, went toward, and our education on water just went up, 1,000-fold. It was just so unbelievable. We were working with Green Lightning. A lot of our customers had asked us about us, wanted to know something about it. And so Matt headed in that direction, and man, we just couldn't believe what we learned about water.
Yeah, and it opened so many doors. I mean, I don't, what comes of the company itself and the whole concept. I mean, we're still testing it and such, but the reality of it is it opened doors. We even we have a local water lab, Heidelberg University. They're the major player in monitoring nitrogen and phosphate primarily on 23 different rivers flowing into the Sandusky Bay, Lake Erie area. And we first name basis, hey kids, come over and play in the farm basis with the lab manager there. And talk about a whole nother layer of stuff, and we'll get into that in the future, but it's crazy how big a deal this is. And we work under the law. We're always looking for what the cause behind the cause is of something and what's the limiting factor. And there's tons of people out here that'll sell you products and services and think they know everything about it, but the reality of it is this whole water touches everything. And it's just like the water lab people there, they know what they know, and we extract and harvest that data from them that we need to help our customers. They have no idea how this water is used out here in the farm and the field and everything. And so for us over the years and together with the customers and the company, we've learned so much broad spectrum. We're the total doctor. You know how in the doctor world you have a foot doctor, toe doctor, and eye doctor, and none of them know anything else. We've had to know every, from greenhouse environments to mixing milk with cattle, young calves to field spraying. We can tell you more about the water stuff, and it's been a collective effort. I mean, certainly I'm the driver of it, but man, everybody else and customers and companies are always ready to feed into it and educate. So valuable. I would hate to begin to put a figure on how much money we have saved our customers by virtue of our water education. I think about just my customer base. I think of one 3,000 acre vegetable farm. If we haven't saved them $500,000 over the last 3 or 4 years over just from our education end, I would be shocked. That's a big deal, Matt. See, and the whole program is that way. Once you get the calcium in the soil where it belongs, the amount of nitrogen you need, it goes down. This is the amount of money guys could save themselves if they would understand exactly how these things progress. And really, that's right. Yep. Big time. So, hey, before we get, we can go on forever on that, Matt, but I want you to talk about your clientele and the guys you're working with and just kind of give people an overview of the type of agriculture that you're working with. Oh, love this group. A grower's guy is inquisitive, ready to learn, and it's funny because, some of them you'll go to their house and you'll give a meeting or you're just full of it, and they'll go to their agronomist and don't go there and everything. And then a few years later, they're your customer, and people that bad mouth you or whatever. And it's funny. And we look back and we'll laugh, but it's so rewarding to get into the multiple generations, when the sons that were raised under this whole program and mindset that we call it a mindset. I mean, we quiz everything, and we realize that farming isn't as complicated as all the different input operations would let you believe. We try to simplify things, and we have a lot of fun. And, we're as diverse as you want to know in the customer base. You name it, we probably got a customer economically using growers as their base nutritional solution. And that's what I teach. Good luck finding anything with as much foundational nutrition availability over a multiplicity of different crops on the market today. Good luck. And with as much knowledge and experience behind it. And that's how our customers use it. I mean, some of them, it's the only fertilizer they buy, period. All of them, it's their foundational fertilizer. In other words, they've learned how to place it in their operation to leverage its economics. And everyone forgets, everybody looks at a liquid fertilizer at a cost per gallon. for us growers, we approach, and our customers know this. It was funny. Even last night, I had somebody call me, and he was renting his faraway farm. He's in Ohio, and he's got a Kentucky farm, the grain part of it. He wanted to rent to a young guy down there. He's getting up in years. He said, I can't keep doing this. And the kid was going to run around and buy different fertilizers, and the growers is already there for this year's farm. And he goes, well, why don't you use that? Well, it's too expensive. And this guy goes, I'm going to tell you something about that fertilizer, son. And it's funny because it's you hear what I have taught them come out and then go through it. And it's so rewarding. He goes, you understand, man, all that other stuff out there is pop-up fertilizers. This stuff does that. And it's all the nutrition you need because you know what? It also feeds your biology. And if you figure out how to do it right, you don't need that other stuff. As simple as that. And I just had to laugh. I mean, it warms your heart when you understand that. And so, to have something that you can be used in a greenhouse environment. I have fish ponic operations. I have an operation that raises lettuce, and the main fertilizers from the fish. He puts 2 quarts in 45,000 gallon of water. And it makes all the difference in the world. 2 quarts of growers a week. And he harvests like 4,000 head of lettuce and in less than 42 days from seed. And it's bulletproof. And it's it's the most efficient greenhouse, period, I would say nationwide. I would hawken that from a nationwide basis. In terms of inputs, cheapest ever. And how did he arrive there? We figured out that growers was the final little ingredient in 45,000 gallon of water, 2 quarts, sets off the biology. And that's how our customers know this. And so, somebody new comes along and they have preconceived notions and, hey, we all have premises. We all have fear, pride, and confusion on a lot of things in this world. Ain't hard to figure out. But you know what? The guy that opens his mind up and the best meetings are the ones where, people confront you, yeah, you're full of it. Okay, well, here. And so I had to watch my dad and some of the predated people from the company, even Jim, go through being ripped, oh, that's not true, this is not true. So when growers approached me and said, hey, you know what, we'll fund a lab for you and, fill it up and have at it. Oh my, there would be times I'd be sitting in this lab, Jim, and I, nearly with tears in my eyes when all this stuff that my dad and Wilbur and some of these other people and other farmers that use this program knew but couldn't see or prove, they could only say it to the neighbor and they poo it away. No, we created a lot of things based on what the biology said, what the seed sprouting and roots and weight, and we did all sorts of things. And you know what? We made it all come true. All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. Excellent. So one last thing as we're heading to the bottom side of the podcast, everyone that I've done up to this point, the guys just extol the virtues of calcium. So I'm going to give you your opportunity to chat about calcium.
Sure. I would say Dad was probably the baseline calcium guy. He embraced everything right up front and would do it. In fact, the first test plot he ever did, he put 8 ton of lime on an acre and then not an acre, tilled it in that fall and planted it next year and hand husk each acre. He got a bunch of people in the hand husking. Had a big field day. We're going to prove this whole growers thing right or wrong in this calcium. And this is back in the late 50s, man. I mean, my dad would do stuff like that all the time. And by the way, 43 more bushel with 8 ton of lime versus not. And that same plot, we kept for 27 straight years. And whatever, when I was a kid, we come home from school, and I'm thinking, I get to run the combine. I'm 12, 13 years old, I'm running the combine. And now we got to go to these doggone growers plots of lime and stuff. And it's like, oh, man. When we go over there and harvest this, soybeans, wheat, whatever it was, for 27 straight years, that one application of limestone, okay, we did those. And we have it all documented. And every year where that 8 ton of lime was put over where it wasn't was a yield gain. And, some years it was 3 bushel. What was funny is the first year it was 43, and I think in the last year it was the upper 30s on the corn. In the last year before we lost it, it was a rented ground, and a guy died and sold it away. But yeah, even the last year it was that high. Just from that, everything else was done the same. So that's our experience on calcium. did tons of plots and, all that stuff. So yeah, there
Education. You're back to the Victor teachings. So, well, okay, Matthew, this is the end of it. So I'll give you one last shot at these people that are listening to us, and just whatever you want to talk about. You got about a minute, man.
Hey, just be curious. Question us, run us over the coals. Don't be afraid to say anything. That's the key. We can help in so many different ways. There's so many ancillary, tangent things that come from having a product that's been made this long. Third generation people running this operation. We haven't changed the formula. We have all these experiences. We know when it doesn't work, what it means, as well as when it works and we're all happy. We get that, and we can tell you where to place this, in what part of your operation. And the value added of this product is second to none. And it comes from all the information available to you if you choose to access it. And that's what I would encourage you to do it. There you go.
Yeah, that's all education, Matthew.
Yep.
Hey, excellent job, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
Take care of yourself, man.
Yep.
This podcast has been brought to you by Growers Mineral. Please visit growersmineral.com.